everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I am back with my April wrap-up. I had a really good reading month in April and it has continued into the beginning of May, so fingers crossed it stays that way. I have very mixed opinions on the books that I read, however, so I'm going to do my best to remember exactly why. And start with the first book that I finished, which I no longer have, and that was Once Upon an Eid. And this is a short story collection for middle grade or young adult level readers, all centering around Eid al-Fitr, and all written by a variety of Muslim authors from a variety of different backgrounds. And as with any short story collection, I liked some more than others, but it was a delightful collection and I'm really glad that I read it, especially because, if you don't know, I am a teacher. I teach middle school, and I always have a sign up on my door about what I'm reading, just to show kids that yes, adults read too. This isn't just a thing that teachers make you do to torture you. And typically nobody really notices, but it makes me happy and I keep doing it on the off chance that someone will notice. Well, one of my students clearly was noticing because she came in and just lit up. She is Muslim herself and she was so excited that I was reading about Eid. I was reading a specifically Muslim short story collection. She was so thrilled and she wanted to know, did I like it? Did I have it? And so I no longer have it because when I finished it, I was able to pass it along to her. And I really hope she enjoyed it. I haven't asked yet, but it has now sparked other conversations about other books that I've said that I'm reading, and I'm really glad. It makes me feel like doing that is worth it. It may not affect a lot of people, but it made a difference to her, and that's worth it. The second book I finished is this absolute monster, The Wild Rose by Jennifer Donnelly. And this is the third in the Rose series, the first being the Tea Rose and the Winter Rose. And I loved the Tea Rose and the Winter Rose. I really, really enjoyed them. This one I didn't love as much. The whole series is very interestingly built. The first follows Fiona and Joe in the East End of London from a very working class background towards the end of the 1800s, maybe early 1900s. And you follow them and all of the drama and romance in their lives. It's very much a star-crossed lovers type of book. And I really wasn't sure where book two was going to go, but if you saw my review this time last year, you'll know that I absolutely loved it, and that it followed two other characters that were very new to the story, but who are still connected to Fiona and Joe. So we still see Fiona and Joe's lives develop, but we are focused on two other characters who happen to be connected to them. So I knew going in that we would probably be following two other new characters, also connected to Fiona and Joe, and from book two, India and Billy. Is it Billy? No, it wasn't Billy. Sam? Sid. India and Sid. I'm so sorry, Sid. I promised I liked the book that you were the main character of. So in this one, we follow two other characters, which if you've read book two, you will recognize their names at least. We follow Seamus and Willa. And I have to admit, I didn't love this book as much, purely because I felt that their story damaged a lot more people. They made a lot more choices that I would never have made precisely because they hurt so many other people. It was also a much bleaker story in general. And granted, a lot of it does take place around and in World War I, which was a very bleak time, so I mean, deservedly so. But after 500 pages of all kinds of trigger warning worthy things like attempted rape and lots of murders and drug addiction and alcoholism and destructive or self-destructive behaviors, it really started to wear on me. Plus, I'm not entirely happy with how it ended, especially as regards the character of Max. I won't tell you exactly what happens, but I felt that that was resolved far too neatly and far too perfectly. It did not fit everything that he had done in this book. And I'm very dissatisfied with the injustice of that. So yes, I'm glad I finally read this series. There's also a trigger warning for pandemics because of course they all lived through the Spanish flu pandemic. And granted, this was written in 2013 or 15, but reading that bit now was really quite horrible. So I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I know what happens to all of these people, but had I stopped at the second one, I think I would have been just as happy. Next, I picked up a lighter romance novel to try and save me from all that drama, and that was Falling Hard for the Royal Guard by Megan Clausen. And this came highly recommended. Megan is very active on social media herself, and this follows a young woman who lives at the tower because her father is a beefeater and ends up falling for one of the royal guardsmen. Now, that much of the story is very much based on Megan Clausen's own life. She did live at the tower, her father was a beefeater, and she fell for another of the royal guards while she was there. So I found that aspect really fascinating of what would it be like to live at the Tower of London and all of the protocols surrounding royal guardsmen and working for historic royal palaces and whatnot. I found that really, really fascinating and very sweet. There is a lot more of a darker side to this as well, in terms of our main character's mental health. She's dealing with a lot of grief, a lot of anxiety, depression, which manifests in a lot of body image issues. She is trying to get over a very toxic relationship. So while I liked it as a romance, it wasn't quite the lighthearted, warm hug that I thought it was. It is, however, very realistic. So if you're looking for that in your romance novels, then do definitely pick this up. Then I also finished listening to Phineas Redux by Anthony Trollope, and this is the fourth in his Palliser series, which I'm slowly making my way through. So as you may guess from the title, this is a direct sequel to Phineas Finn, which is book 2 in the series, and we pick up about a year after that book ends to find out what happens to Phineas next in his life. And I had heard mixed things about this as a novel. And I have to say my feelings are quite mixed as well, so that's really rather fitting. I found the first half of the book really quite slow, very difficult to understand as there's a lot of parliamentary ins and outs, which as an American, I'm not that familiar with, so those were a little bit hard for me to follow. Then came the second half, which turns into a murder mystery courtroom drama out of absolutely nowhere. And that was a lot more exciting to listen to, but I didn't necessarily love a lot of the choices that he made for the characters' fates. There was a relatively large amount of anti-Semitism about a certain character. I really didn't think that anyone deserved anybody romantically by the end of this, but some of them did end up together. Yeah, overall it was just fairly middling. Bit boring, bit exciting, and then slightly uncomfortable. So a mixed bag, but I am going to press on and read the next 2 books in the series and see where they take us. Also, you do need to have read the Eustace Diamonds as well before reading this one. You can't jump straight from Phineas Finn to this one. The Eustace Diamonds does form a key element of part 2. Then we get to what was probably my standout read for the month, which was Tears of the Wolf by Elizabeth Wheatley. This was fantastic. This is a fantasy, adventure, romance, but it doesn't feel that fantasy. It is very heavily influenced by Viking history and Viking customs, and you can tell how much research Elizabeth Wheatley has put in. In it, we follow Bryn, who is recently divorced. She has petitioned the king for a divorce because her husband is absolutely horrible, and their young son has just died as well, so trigger warnings for that. She is dealing with a lot of grief. And so the king grants her divorce, but marries her instead to another of his distant cousins, I think, Senric, who is a lord of a far distant farming community. And they're both quite wary of each other. But over time, they grow to understand one another, they grow to love one another. They help each other deal with each other's emotional baggage. And we start to see that there is more going on in Bryn's family with her mother and with her past marriage than initially met the eye, and that causes some drama later on. It is very slow and introspective to start, and the drama really kicks in at the end, but it is the sweetest, most beautiful romantic build-up that I have read in quite a while. Plus, there are adorable telepathic dogs. So honestly, what more could you want? I highly recommend this book, and there's going to be a sequel out, she thinks, this fall. So I am really excited to pick that up and see what will happen to Bryn and Senric next. Because it definitely ends on a cliffhanger. There is more going on that they will need to deal with later on. Another thing I like to mention about romance books, this one is quite spicy, but Elizabeth says that she only writes spicy scenes between married characters because that's what she is comfortable with. If that's also within your comfort range, then I also highly recommend it. Megan Clausen's books, on the other hand, not as spicy as I expected them to be, so do with that what you will. Then finally, another middling read for me, I read The Wood at Midwinter by Susanna Clarke, and this was really quite disappointing. I was really looking forward to this. I absolutely adore Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Piranesi was just okay. This I found even more disappointing than Piranesi, really. I mean, it is tiny. She didn't have a lot of room to work in. But I'm still not sure what the ultimate point of this story is. We follow two sisters who walk into a wood at Midwinter, and mysterious things happen to one sister. I really don't think I can say more than that, because it's only 70 pages. But yeah, part of me feels like there's definitely some symbolism that I'm missing here. But I can't quite figure out what she's trying to say with it. I think I was just expecting more of a Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell type story because it had been hinted that this was set in the same universe, but it really wasn't the same vibe at all. So, interesting. Glad I read it. Just meh overall. So those were the books that I managed to read in April. Let me know down below what your favorite read of the month was, or if you have other questions about any of the books that I mentioned or other books in their series if they are part of one. And until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye everyone.